Hello, welcome back for another video. My name's Mark, and it's the second part of the Lego Man, the Luke Skywalker lamp build. And if you haven't watched it, the first one where we made the head and the body, probably better to watch that first before you watch the arms and the legs. So I'm going to carry on and start making the legs. Okay, on the legs of a Lego Man, the last time you played with one is, you got like this part which clips to the body there, so it looks like it's part of the body, but then it also has this little sort of strap piece that goes between his legs, so there's like a pin through there. I'm not sure if they actually come in bits, so I think I'll make the actual legs first, and then you can get the round to make this part that then plugs onto his body. So that's what makes any sense. So I make the legs, and then I should better have all the angles, because you've got like a little cove cut in there to allow the legs to move. So if I make the legs and then go from there, I'm going to make the legs out of oak, because on the man, on Luke Skywalker here, the legs and the hair are the same colour. So I thought if I use oak again, it's a bit of a pain because it's so hard and heavy, but anyway, it's just need the colour really. So I'll mark them out, and then I'll come back and film some more. So I cut the legs out on the bandsaw. I'll just quite rough, so I'll give them all a good clean up, and then I've got to get the width right and cut that piece out so that piece that goes between his legs, joins the legs together, can fit in. But I'll clean them up first to just check the shape and everything is all okay. Okay, I've got the legs all sanded up now. The next part is, well, I'll bring this close to the camera, but it's really hard, quite hard to see. This in between his legs is like a little, I don't know what that is, little sort of thing that also where the pin goes through for his legs. So yeah, sort of that becomes like the bottom of his body, and there's a little thing that swings between his legs that allows his legs to move. If I turn it over around, I don't know, it might be easier to see. So we'll make that next. But there's also, it's really hard to put my glasses on to see this, like a little rebate in the edge of the leg there, so it sits into like a tiny rebate to allow it to sort of, it's cut out of the curve to allow it to move. So you got to, so you can have so his legs aren't. So I made this piece that goes sort of in between his legs. So now he's got a rebate in slightly into each side, so it's round basically. So he's got a rebate in, because when his legs almost touch when they're I don't know if you can see, his legs almost touch, so that on this, it's quite hard to see, but there's a little rebate to allow him in. So I'm going to make a little a jig up, or a little template for the router to cut them semicircles into his legs, just to sort of close it together. And there's like another piece that goes along the top with, like, well, I'll show you that bit when we get that far. But yeah, so I'm going to cut these, make a jig up, cut these in first. So I cut a piece of ply with the same, the same angle or curve in it as that. So I can just, well, I've got to pull it back sort of, I think about 6mm, and then I can run the bush guide on the bottom of the router. Next bit I've got to do is this part, fingers out of the way. You see the tops of where the tops of the legs go, there's like this sort of belt part that carries that other bit. It's like a little cove in there to allow the legs to move. So I know you can do a cove cut on a table saw, but it's a little bit dangerous, and with such a small bit of wood I'll probably end up launching it across the room, so I don't fancy that. So what I've done is I've set the chop saw up with a depth stop on the chop saw, so it'll only come down so far. I've done a test I've been cutting some test pieces. I've cut a bit of ply the same size as what I want. Done some test cuts, so that's what I'm going to do, I think. So I still end up with the cove cut there, but I know it's going to be quite a bit of sanding because you get all the teeth marks out, but I think it's going to be a lot safer than trying to do it on the table saw. So that's what I'll get all those cut and get that sanded up, and we're pretty much ready to assemble the legs then. So I've cut that one out. It's come up okay. I've done it with the end grain on that end, which is, I know it's not going to make it that strong, as strong as it would be the other way around, but it's the same piece that I cut off the bottom of here, so that all the grain matches as it runs through, which I think is going to look nicer. Otherwise the grain would have been, if I'd done it the other way around, the grain would have been going the other way, so it wouldn't look as nice. But I realised I made a bit of a mistake, because when I cut this out to go in between his legs, as it were, that bit, it's only going to touch in the middle, but it'd really be better if it touched a bigger area for easier to fix. So I'm going to recut one of these and then sort of square those two ends off. My fingers that way, you can see. So I can sort of square those two ends off, so it sits. So I've got more meat in there to fix, as it were, because otherwise I'm just going to fix in the middle and it's going to rock. So it needs to go to sort of get to this point and then come down square, I think, to make it strong. If you look at the Lego one, that's more what they've done. I didn't really look close enough, so, but I'll just recut. That's not going to take long. It's an easy fix anyway. I'm going to drill out put the pin in to make his legs work. So I was going to use drill through that piece into the leg, so that those two should line up, and then I can then flick that over and use that one on the other leg as like a template, because obviously you've got to get them in a straight line to allow them to work freely. I'm going for the head came off the lathe. It ended up with a 35mm like plug that went into the top of the body, into that hole. That hole there was 35mm. So you can get a 35mm drill easy as well, because you can just use a concealed hinge drill. So 35mm. So I've got some 35mm dowel. So possibly a little bit big, but you can't see it and it's sort of chunky. So and I might need to add to it, because I want the legs to move, but not like, when a Lego man, they move really freely, but I want them to move, because obviously it needs to move and come apart, but I want them quite tight in there. So, because obviously I want it to stand up as a lamp and to hold the lightsaber, so if it's too floppy, it'll just sort of buckle up. So I might even glue something to the side of here, just a couple of shavings, something just to tighten it up in the hole. But I'll see when I've drilled it out how well it all goes together. I'll get all these drilled out and then I'll come back and show you. So I've got a pin in the middle now, so I've got that piece at the back now, which I'm going to cut off. So I thought I'd get it all assembled before, just to sort of see, because it sort of goes straight up there on the Lego man. And yet also it's got, on the proper one, he's got them holes in the backs of his legs, so you can attach him to other bits of Lego. But I'm sort of undecided on that one, really, because it's only, I'm not going to make that, well, not at the moment, make the Legos to attach him to, but I want to stand him up as a lamp. So you might, don't know really whether I do that. I'm sort of erring on the way of not doing it at the moment. It's easy enough to drill two big holes in the back of his legs, but I don't know. So the next thing is this piece then, that then mounts on top of there. I left them too big because it was quite hard. I didn't know exactly what width, gap and everything else, just to be on the safe side. So I left them too big, and I could just stick them through the saw bench to cut that piece off. So then that then needs two more of them holes. So I can attach two of these plugs to it to then push him up onto the body. So I'll clean all this up, get this all working, and that's just drilling two holes and just gluing two plugs in, so that's fairly straightforward to do. If I repeat myself, which I probably have in this because I've been filming it over several days, as I said in the other video, I'm sorry, it's when you're talking, when you're doing it, especially me, I just keep forgetting what I've already said. So if I repeat myself 10 times, I'm sorry. Yeah, so I'll get these. So I'll sort this out. Get these two plugs putting in up into the body. They're pretty much onto the arms then. But if I get any more things, I'll come back and film some more. I'll just give you a quick run through on these legs because I keep seeing we're talking about these legs forever. So got a couple of plugs on there. So that'll click on there. Couple of holes in the bottom there. So that can be doweled on through those holes there. I've glued on the ends of these pins where it goes in the legs just some shavings, just because I want to tighten them up a little bit, because before they're in there they're the right size hole for the thing, but it moves a bit too freely, because I think because he's going to be carrying the lightsaber now and the weight of the lightsaber, it might sort of want to sort of topple him forward. I'm a bit worried about, so I want him to move more like a sort of an arthritic Luke Skywalker than a young Luke Skywalker, if you see what I mean. I want it to move and come apart, because that's what a Lego man does. But I don't want it to do it too freely. I want it to do it quite, so it's reasonably stiff, so it'll hold the weight. Okay, that's the end of the legs. So next time I come back, I'll be on the arms. So I've got them all together now. Legs on, it's all gone together. So when I made up a ply template for the arm, I made up quite a few ply templates actually, because it's a bit more to try and get it to look right. So cut that one out, so I'm sort of happy with that one. I think that's about right. I'm going to cut a couple of them out now, and then just shape them up. So I'll get them all cut out and start work on them, and I'll come back and film a bit more. I've cut the arms out, just really rough shapes really. So I'm just going to have to keep working them now until I get them into the look the same as Lego Man. It's just lots of rounding off really, and cut a few more bits off and till they look right. So I've got the arms to sort of shape I'm happy with. It's just basically took I just did with a spoke shave and just kept cutting, taking bits off, messing around until I was happy. I mean, I think it was easier as I did to start big, if you want to do them, and just keep working them down until you get them to how they look right. Because if you just try and scale them off the Lego Man, it doesn't really work completely. So I've got a template I use now, drilled a hole in it, so I'm going to use that to drill the holes in the end of the arms, and in the body. But because when you put it in the drill press, because you cut it an angle, I'm going to have to put something underneath it to level it up so that it goes in square to there. And the same with the body, because the body's angled, so I'll have to square it up in the drill press to allow me to drill the two holes so they're square. Otherwise, if I just drill them as it is, the two holes will be going at different angles to each other. If that makes any sense. Okay, I'll drill them out and see how we go. Drilled that one out in there. So then I've got the template. I've taped it to the arm, so get in exactly the right place for both sides. And this is the piece I cut off of the bottom. So then put that underneath and just move it ever so slightly forward to allow for the thickness of the saw blade, so it's pretty much level. Just line it up with the drill and then just drill them out. So I've got the arms mounted now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue them into the glue the pin into the arm, and I'm going to do like I did on the legs, put a bit of just glue like a shaving, just something like that around the just around the dowel, just to tighten it up in there, because it needs to hold the weight of the lightsaber when it's finished. So I mean, like the arm moves like nice and freely. I'll do it from behind so you can see. So the arm goes up and down nice and freely, which would be great if you wanted to play with it. But I might have a little play with it. But it'd be better if it was a bit tighter so it could hold the weight of the lightsaber. So especially one arm needs to be reasonably stiff. So if I glue that around there, I'll just tighten it up in the hole. I'll just sand it in the morning then, just to get it like, you know, till it goes in, but not nice and tight with a bit of friction. And then it's just the hands left. Well, the hands and the lightsaber, and he needs a face, but I can try and persuade a friend who's a bit of an artist to paint the face for me, because if I do it, it end up looking a bit sort of cross-eyed and angry probably. So get someone who's a bit better with a paintbrush than me. So it's just the hands and the lightsaber left really, and the face has gone off to be painted. Someone's kindly offered to do it for me, so I haven't got Luke anymore. Luke's had to go off so he can be copied. So got this Lego man now, which I found in one of the kids' old toy boxes. Don't know what it's supposed to be, but anyway, I just want the hands. So basically the hands, that's fingers out of the way. The hands on Lego man are basically oversized, aren't they? They're quite big. So I thought, as the lathe stood out from doing the head, I'll just make a circle, like a big disc, and then I might try and do either take the middle out on the lathe or just cut the middle out. So it's basically a circle with the front cut off, and there's a little pin that goes, off of it. So you should better make that on the lathe then, and then it's just the handle for the lightsaber to make on the lathe as well. So I'll get this all turned up and come back and show what I'm up to. So I've got a round bit of beach on the lathe now. So what I'm thinking, that's the outside diameter of the hand. So I'm going to try and, obviously there's two hands out of this piece, so I'm going to try and reduce the two ends down to a diameter that will go in the chuck. Hopefully I can hold it in the chuck, but I know when I tried to do the hair I had problems because the chuck's not very good on this lathe. Don't really use it very often, it's a bit of an old lathe. So, well, it's an old chuck anyway. So if I can get it in the chuck, then hopefully I can hollow the middle out. And then, so that'll be the middle of the hand, and I just need to cut in like the claw part of the hand, the bit out, you know, to allow him to grip. Hope that kind of makes sense. Sort of makes sense to me anyway. So I'll get them down, see if I can get it in the chuck, and I'll show you what I'm doing then. Otherwise, it'll just have to hole saw the middle out, I think. But either way, it should work. Yeah. So I cut it in half. Thought stick that end in the chuck, and I could just hollow out the middle, you know, almost within about 5-10 mil of the end, and that was it, the hand. But I put it in the chuck and it just won't hold it. It won't tighten up for some reason. I don't know why. So what I can probably do is, because you have to cut in anyway, because it's not a complete circle, the hand's only sort of, I don't know, about 3/4 of a circle on it. So I might just cut the middle out with a cutting, and then cut the middle out with a bandsaw, then just sand up the inside. Will probably be the easiest way. So I mean, I've done most of the work to create the hand on the lathe, so you know it's sort of worked. I'll make these up and then I'll come back and film some more. So I've cut the middle out on a bandsaw, just sort of cut in that little slot. Cut it out. Obviously, this hand needs to be the opening needs to be a lot bigger than what I've got. And you know what I've got at the moment, but I'll sort of figure that out in a minute. So I've got one of it's a bit rough inside. That's the only trouble with all the bandsaw marks. I've got one of those little drum sanders that fits in the drill, so I'll buzz that around the middle and clean it up and do the other one. I think it's probably a bit wide, but I can decide on that when I've got it all cleaned up, and the same as deciding on the size of the opening, because I need the lightsaber handle to fit in. So I need to sort of maybe make that first before I go too mad and cut too much off. So I'll clean this up to take it slowly, and then see before I go mad cutting bits off that I want to put back on. So I've sanded up inside these hands. I use this thing in the drill. it didn't take that long at all. Actually worked okay. So I know I've got to cut out, it looks like a big serviette ring at the moment, doesn't it? I've got to cut out obviously quite a lump to make his hand. But now on the Lego man, you've got like a pin, so looks like a dowel that attaches there, then goes up inside his arm. So that's the next thing to make really, but that's just like basically 2 beach dowels. We'll just might spin them up on the lathe. I won't really bother filming much because it's just like a dowel really. I'll make it and then show you what I've done now. I'm going to attach it. So I'll do those next. And then that's just attaching to there and attaching to his arms. And then it's the lightsaber left then. So I made these dowels on the lathe for the sort of, I suppose, the bit that attaches his hands into his arms. I don't know quite. So I got one of those just use that on the sort of drum sanders on a drill. Just rounded the end up so it goes onto the end of the so I've cut the end of the hand off to shape what I think looks right. So just going to drill a hole up the end of the arm. I just made these 35mm, same as all the other dowels. So I'll drill a hole up the end of his arm, poke these up, they can go up there, and I'm going to just glue and put like a little tiny dowel through the end of his hand up into there, just a small one so you can't really see it, because the end of his hands are open so you can sort of see it. So I don't want to drill a big hole and put that through because it won't look right. Got Luke back from Rebecca. She painted the head for me. I'll spin the camera and you can see him. I think it's really happy with how she's done an amazing job. It was really good. Okay, I'll get these hands on the ends of the arms, then it's the lightsaber bit left then I'll come back and do some more. Okay, I've glued up the hands to the little pins on the thing. Got some holes in the ends of drilled the holes out in the ends of the arms. So just letting the glue dry on those, put a dowel up inside there. Just let the glue dry for that, and they can be finally sanded up and ready to go. So next thing is the lightsaber. So it's just the handle really, which I've got a bit of this bit of old teak windowsill here. I know it's a bit big, but I'll cut it down to glue a couple of bits together to make the handle. And then this plastic tube, hopefully it's not too big. Well, I know it's too long, but obviously the diameter on more money. I bought it off eBay for, it's meant for fishing rods or something, but I'll spray it. That's all, I don't know, bluey green colour, and then I've got some LED lights to go inside it. Well, that's the plan anyway. So I'll get this on the lathe, to turn this down into a sort of the shape of the handle, and then we'll go from there. So I'm going to use that bit between there and there. I've had to do it ever so slightly different to the to the Lego Man one, so I might offend a few Star Wars fans, but I couldn't, because the Lego Man hand's plastic. It'll grip, as you know, it'll spring in, but then beach hands aren't going to spring. So what I've done is, so it'll slide over there at that point, and then it should slide down. So the plan is this part here is where his hand sits, and then that little bit's, yeah, is the sort of the other bit above, and then in the end of here, I'm going to get that, hopefully that plastic tube, cut a little pocket in there to slide the plastic tube in, and then I can drill up through the middle to run the wire up. But I don't know if it looks too big or wrong or what, but until I get it off the lathe and cut it all down, it's a bit late at that point, there's not much I can do. So I'll get it off the lathe now. Well, I'll finish it off a little bit, get it off, and then have a look, see what it looks like. So I've got it off the lathe and that. So I've drilled with a hole saw, like, see that ring around there, which fits in that plastic tube. So I've got to get the wire up in now, because I'm going to go for these LEDs. going to have to be a little bit of a bigger hole in the bottom than just a normal size hole, because there's no way you can really unwire them. When imagine it'd be a nightmare trying to unwire that. So if I get, shouldn't be too more about 8, 9, 10 mil pushing thing. So I'll drill a hole in the bottom, and what I might do is on this in the middle here, you just get a forcing a bit and just drill a reasonable size hole right down the middle, just to try and make it as light as possible, really, because I'm a bit worried about the weight of it. When time you get the light stable, the plastic tube sticking out, with it toppling the Lego man over, so the lighter it is, the better. So I think I'll just drill like a 20 mil hole down the middle, you know, 3/4 of the way down or something, and then just little smallest holes I need. I can always call up any spare wire in there as well. So I'll get that all done. I'm going to spray this tube green. Well, I'll do that aside because it will stink otherwise. Then it's just like a final sand down, sort of final assembly then. So yeah, so I sprayed the tube up, sort of that's roughly the same colour, closest colour I could find anyway to that, to his lightsaber. I shot the spray down the inside of the tube, which I think it's come up reasonably well actually. So it still keeps the outside like nice and smooth and that. So I'm going to work out how long it's going to be. Obviously fit it into the handle. So I'm going to put those strips of LEDs. I'm just going to get like a thin bit of batten, or I don't know, or even batten, but like a tiny bit of dowel or something. Wind them round, sort of feed them all up, because there's about, I think it's about 5 meters of them. So hopefully I can coil them all up and get the whole lot inside, because the more I get in, the more powerful this lightsaber will be, won't it? So yeah, and I'll hollow the inside of that pipe out, so we've got to make that as light as possible for his handle. So that's pretty much it really. So I'll do all that, sand it all down, and I'll just come back when I'm finishing them all off then. I know I've gone through this super quick, because if I'd have filmed every single process, it would have just gone on forever. So if you've got any questions, just stick them in the thing, in the box, because I'll come back anyway and show you when it's all just about finished. I will just quickly show you this. So I've got all those LEDs, tuck them to little tiny strips of ply, and I'm just going to feed the whole lot then inside the tube. So hopefully you shouldn't see any of that. Hopefully it'll all go in. So that's just how I did it. So that's all the bits. I've sanded them all up. Just going to give them a coat of Osmo wax, I think, when I'm going to test the piece, but that's what I think I'm going to use. And then it's just sort of final assembly then. Yep, I've given it all a final set of sand off. It's taken ages. So I'm going to give it all a coat of Osmo wax now. And it can all be assembled then. Ready for the testing of the lightsaber. So there it is, all finished. The lightsaber's working. It's even got a little remote control for it. Blue, green, red. I think it's supposed to be blue in it, otherwise I'll upset all the Star Wars fans. I'll move the camera in so you can have a closer look. Thanks ever so much for watching. If anyone's actually watched from the start, that's quite an achievement. Listen to me rabbiting on for hours about Luke Skywalker, stuttering my way through it. Yeah, thanks ever so much for watching. Please subscribe, that'd be brilliant if you could. That's it. There is a little bit closer. That's the little one I've copied. You sort of see the scale. If I put him on his foot, it's quite a bit bigger. If anyone's actually watched this from the start, you deserve a medal. Listen to me rabbiting on about a Lego man for this long. Thanks ever so much if you have watched it or some of it. But please subscribe, that'd be brilliant, and I'll see what I can come up with next. Thanks a lot for watching.